evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. We have people from all over, I can already tell. We have Chrissy from Texas. She is at around 9 in the morning. Reindeer, I believe she is in Eastern Standard Time, so it's mid morning. Mo, our lovely co-host, Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, I am.
Salvador, Arizona, that's Texas time, I believe. I don't know.
He's mountain.
I was like, he's Texas time.
Yeah, he's on Sal time.
His
Then we have
state is weird anyway with their time zone.
True.
and we have Indigo. She's in Texas. She's going down to hit on the dance instructor today because it's Friday.
Well, it makes sense.
I told you in confidence. Good morning, Thierry. Mass is in the only real time zone. The Central European time zone.
I have no idea how much I wish that was our state or our country. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Another Texan. Good morning, Josie.
Because I'd rather not math, if I'm going to be honest.
Hey, Miami Spice.
Good
Sauda,
morning.
I'm not sure. No, you're American too. So you're one of those who's behind us. Texas Central. Don't tell me Texas have more time zones than one, because I just figured out this. I have to subtract 7 from my time zone to get to Texas time, and then I had to add 1 to get to most time zones. So I'm really confused. How did the dancing go, EU? EU is in the future.
She is. And we still don't have a sarcasm font.
No.
In the future.
Yeah, we need one. And Ohio. So that'll be Eastern, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a good geologist.
We're pre-geology, pre-jury, pre-law, pre-real estate.
Yeah.
We are all the pre's.
I was gonna say, I hope Texas only has one because I thought they did. I'd be disappointed.
I was about to say, Matt seems to have Googled, and there's more than one time zone. They needed to split West and East Texas because Texas is giant. I don't know.
Well, why can't you just come together, meet in the middle, and say, everyone, let's do like China, one time zone. It's kind of awkward when it's 5 in the afternoon and some people are just getting out of bed and some people have been in bed for 5 hours, but one time zone.
Wouldn't that be something if it was that much of a time difference? You just drive
China do have one time zone. And China is, I think Russia is the biggest country geographically, but China is the second biggest. So, Mo, did you have to tell people?
It'll be in the afternoon. I do have to pick up youngest and most feral of the girl daughters at about 4. So I think we're going to kind of be on verdict watch at that point. So I will have my phone with me.
We hope. We are. Yeah.
It could become a quagmire.
Good Lord. FYI, your reptile guy is getting sentenced today.
Yeah,
that's what
we talked about. That maybe Mo could go over there and stream that, or maybe she can do it when we're on verdict watch.
That's kind of.
We figure out something. We do this the old-fashioned way, with a lot of duct tape and a little prayer.
Yes.
Like Jamie's internet, it keeps cutting in and out.
I was about to say, it is storming here. It's not supposed to be a big storm, so we are looking at a generator because.
Well, none of us will. Did you see that that guy this week? He's been on with all the big ones. It's just us little ones.
I thought Jennifer was getting around, but MLS is
all alone over there. I went and sat with him a little bit.
Yeah, he's angry I stole you, but I'm the only one who appreciated your lashes. He took you for granted.
He did, all the time.
Oh. Good morning, Twisted.
Good morning. Good morning, Jen B.
Sorry, Mass.
Sorry.
Do laundry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's stupid.
Yes,
I could
I would vote for that.
when we had to go out and pick our crops, I could understand it, and they had to save the energy. But the lizardman, he got it's just sentencing today. He was found guilty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of, I believe, second-degree intentional homicide.
Yeah,
I'll have
it
to
was
go back
let
and look at my
down,
note.
or they were put down. Sentencing should begin now at 4 my time, so
Yeah, it
I
was.
don't know which state he's in. So that would be 10 Eastern.
Yeah, let me.
I seen it was live now when I switched over. So
Jamie, we have complaints.
what?
Look on your screen.
I know. I said sorry. I have to do laundry.
Oh,
So I pulled something. I have a jacket on and a shirt.
oh, you're fancy. Hey, Jenny B. DM. It sounds like a car. DM.
Well, he's got a little jacket on today.
Yeah, but the same yellow shirt.
Yeah, probably only had the one shirt. Poor guy.
Hello, Kalina.
Yeah. And no tie.
Yeah, but
He's
I don't
no
think
tie
you want to
Bronco
put a
all
tie
the
around
time.
that big neck, because
No,
as a
probably
big
not.
naked person, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah,
True.
he's a panel slut. I can't say anything because I started out being on David's channel this morning at 6 a.m. So,
Oh yeah.
and I'll probably end up being on with Nicholas tonight before bed.
Yes, I'm going to be an emotional support drunk person for him. I mean, tipsy person for charity.
Hey,
Good
the
morning,
White
White
Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Say hello to the expert for us.
Thanks for coming over here and saying hi. I love her.
Yes,
This
I know. I need.
do they draw a line down so they know what time zone, so they had to put their watch back and forth? I couldn't do that.
Yeah, Tennessee has two.
To be honest, Baker, just like you, we love our government and they make the best choices ever. And, I fully agree with all the daylight savings time, Your Honor.
Ja, men det er jo flot, Klaphat. Hvorhen på kortet står der, hvornår det skifter? Det er jo så dejligt nemt bare at sige 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. Hvor er det skifter? Og så samtidig skal du huske, der er en af staterne, der har afskaffet sommertid. Så der er jo halvdelen af året, er der jo forskel.
Okay.
Does anyone else just love the flock of baby lawyers? Because I do.
I thought Creepy McCreek guy with the soul glow was a former army buddy, but he seems like he knows all the lawyerings.
Yeah.
What are they smiling at?
They've been laughing through this trial.
I know. Someone brought in a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon.
Ja.
They're like, have you seen Far Side?
Det løser jo bare ikke problemet, når ikke ved, hvorhen de har de forskellige... Sal bor i Arizona, så det er derfor, det ikke gælder. This is a dual lingual channel. Anything you want to know? The clap hat is, what we call a stupid person. I don't know why. We have strange words, like the cheat fur yesterday. I haven't checked if the defendant has it. We just talked about he hadn't had a tie on, but this one, that's not in evidence.
The lead detective really likes purple. I've noticed that his tie has been some variation of purple this entire time, and then he matched with the doctor.
Yeah, but he has a good suit game.
He does, if he could just learn to use the damn mic.
Again, the mic is not really a suit. Oh, maybe I should.
The next order of business is that I'm going to give to you the jury charge. The law says that I have to do that in a certain way. Number one, it's written down and you will have it with you during the deliberation room. So please don't think that you have to memorize it. But second, the law requires that I read it out loud, and I'll do the best I can to be as efficient as I can. It's about 10 pages long. After I read it, you will hear arguments from these excellent lawyers. It's my understanding the state is going to open, Ms. Paver will open on behalf of the state, followed by Mr. Duke and Mr. Sanchez on behalf of the defense. And because they have the burden of proof, the arguments will be concluded by Ms. Mitchell. The jury charge contains the law that will be necessary to enable you to reach a verdict. You'll see that the jury charge follows a form that basically has the definitions, the legal definitions in the first couple pages. And then you'll see that there is an application.
So now that he's going to read
And
10
then you'll see
pages
that there's
for the
defense of
jury,
third
and then we're
person.
going to do
Anytime
closings.
that you see
Yeah.
in
So,
any of those paragraphs, a term
Hopefully
that
they
was
have a
defined
time
earlier
limit, or they
in
will
jury
do it
charge,
just
you will
as
use
shortly
that
as the.
definition.
Jamie,
correct
where
phrase?
did
Term is
you
not
see
defined.
the link to
Then you're
the
to use
Bill
your
Zelensky
common
thing? I think I
ordinary
can.
understanding of what the term
law and crime
means.
trials.
Do not, under any circumstances,
Okay, thank you.
consult a dictionary or do any independent research.
Yes,
Remember,
you could
you all have done very well.
easily go
in
over there
keeping
because
your
this is
oath
just
in
closing.
line to render a verdict based on the law and the evidence.
And
You've done well.
Yeah.
I think you can
Okay.
still be
Only
in
comes from the
this
witness
this
stand.
stream
One thing
while
that you're
opening a
allowed
new.
to use
I'm not
is your
sure, but
common
I hope
sense
you can.
and things
I,
that you've heard
I'm not
in
sure,
the
but
courtroom and nowhere else.
if worse comes to
Now,
worse, I will make a
as
video
probably
about
as
it.
important as ever, keep that instruction
Unfortunately,
in
I don't
mind.
think Wild Bill is
Doesn't go
going
away just
anywhere.
because you're deliberating.
No,
You're
No.
not allowed to deliberate unless all 12 of you are present at the same
Yeah, there's
time.
nothing going on right
during
now, but it's fine.
deliberations. The alternates will be placed in a different room. So the 12 of you, when all
Yeah,
12 of
perfect.
you are present, can deliberate. If one of you needs to take a break, then you need to cease your deliberations. I'll have some further
Yeah.
concluding instructions after I read the jury
you
charge.
can have all the girls.
You will have all the evidence that was admitted before you in this case for all purposes. You've heard several times, and you may recall that I
Well,
admitted things for record purposes only. That
Couldn't-
means it's not for you, it's for
gets-
the court. You don't need to worry about that.
it
Don't
gets
speculate
more
about
light
what
in
it's
the
all
evening
about. You're
anyway.
only to confine your
It's
deliberations to the evidence that you
Between
heard
2 or
in
3
court
in the
that was
morning that
received
it starts
for
to
all
get dark.
purposes. In the event
So,
that some
I
of the
don't-
evidence
yeah.
you want to review is digital evidence, we can bring that back. We will have to bring you back
Well, we
into
get
court
that extra hour.
so that you can view it and
Yeah,
you can
but
make those
Start to,
arrangements.
like,
so that you don't
Sal
Sal
is
have
still going to bed at
there's
6
a
in the
TV back there.
evening,
You
so
don't have any way
it
to
doesn't change
inspect
anything.
evidence on the TV.
Very
So,
true.
with all that in mind, jury charge reads as follows. Cause number F21 75024, State of Texas versus Darrin Lopez, 292nd Judicial District Court. Members of the jury, Darrin Lopez, hereinafter called the defendant, stands charged by indictment with the offense of murder alleged to have been committed on or about the 9th day of October of 2020 in Dallas County, Texas. To this charge, the defendant has pleaded not guilty. You were instructed that the law applicable to this
It's not
case
the
is as
biggest
follows.
cases we cover,
Offense.
but
Our law provides that a
they're
person
usually
commits
more
murder
fun
when
and
he,
more
1,
efficient than,
intentionally or knowingly causes the
big
death of an
cases.
individual, or 2, intends to cause serious bodily injury and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. Term definitions. Act means a bodily movement, whether voluntary or involuntary, and
I'm going
includes
to make my
speech.
coffee because I fell asleep.
Actor means a
Make it.
person whose criminal responsibility is in issue in a criminal action. Another means a person other than the actor. Attempt to commit an offense occurs if, with the specific intent to commit an offense, a person does an act amounting to more than mere preparation that tends but fails to affect the commission of the offense intended. Page 2. Bodily injury means physical pain, illness, or impairment of physical condition. Conduct means an act or omission and its accompanying mental state. Deadly weapon means a firearm or anything manifestly designed, made, or adapted for the purpose of inflicting death or serious bodily injury. Or 3, anything that in the manner of its use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. Firearm means any device designed, made, or adapted to expel a projectile through a barrel by using the energy generated by an explosion or burning substance, or any device readily convertible to that use. Individual means a human being who is alive, including an unborn child at every stage of gestation from fertilization until birth. Everybody in the audience to please silence your cell phones. They don't need to be on right now. Serious bodily injury means bodily injury that creates a substantial risk of death or that causes death, serious permanent disfigurement, or protracted loss or impairment of the function of any bodily member or organ. Aggravated kidnapping is defined as abducting another person with the intent to hold them for ransom or reward, use them as a shield or a hostage, inflict bodily injury on a person or violate them sexually, or terrorize them or a third person. Sexual assault is defined as the penetration of the anus, sexual organ, or mouth of another person by any means, or the sexual organ of another person to contact or penetrate the mouth, anus, or sexual organ of another person without that person's consent. Aggravated sexual assault is defined as a person committing sexual assault while causing serious bodily injury
Why are
or
we talking-
attempting to cause the death of the victim, using or exhibiting a deadly weapon
Yeah,
in
I'm
the commission of
confused
the
about
sexual
the
assault,
SA.
or providing any substance capable of impairing the victim's ability to resist the act. Mental state definitions. Person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the result of his conduct when it is his conscious objective or desire to cause the result. Person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to the result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. Application of the law to the facts. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 9th day of October 2020 in Dallas County, Texas, the defendant, Darrin Lopez, did unlawfully, then and there, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of James Faith, an individual, by shooting him with a firearm, a deadly weapon, then you will find the defendant guilty of murder, and you will next consider
Woohoo.
whether the defendant's conduct was justified as explained below, or
Yeah,
if you find from the evidence beyond a
actually
reasonable
writing
doubt
down on my
that on or
pad.
about the 9th
I don't
day of
understand
October
the essay
2020, Dallas County, Texas, the defendant, Darrin Lopez, did unlawfully then and there intend to cause serious bodily injury to James Faith, an individual, and did then and there commit an act clearly dangerous to human life, to wit, by shooting James Faith with a firearm, a deadly weapon, and did thereby cause the death of James Faith, then you will find the defendant guilty of murder, and you will next consider whether the defendant's conduct was justified as explained below. If you have a reasonable doubt as to whether the defendant is guilty of any offense defined in this charge, you will acquit the defendant and say by your verdict, not guilty. Page 4, defense of a third person, justification as applied to murder. In regards to the offense of murder, you are instructed that under our law, a person is justified in using force against another to protect a third person if, under the circumstances as he reasonably believes them to be, such person would be justified in using force to protect himself against the unlawful force of another, which he reasonably believes to be threatening the third person he seeks to protect, and he reasonably
Yes, this
believes
is the
that
jury
his intervention
instruction,
is
Josie.
immediately necessary
I think they're trying to do
protect the third
hybrid
person.
like Kim Potter
Person is
did.
justified
That,
in using deadly force against another to
it-
protect the
it
third
was
person
justified to
if,
use deadly
under the
force, but she
circumstances
shouldn't
as
have
he
done it.
reasonably believes them to be,
I don't know how that's going to
such
go
person
over.
would be justified in using force to protect himself against another, which he reasonably believes to be threatening the third person he seeks to protect, and when and to the degree the person reasonably believes deadly force is immediately necessary to A, protect the third person against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force, or to prevent the other's imminent commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or
Okay.
aggravated robbery, and he reasonably believes that his intervention is immediately necessary to protect the third person. The defendant's belief that deadly force was immediately necessary is presumed to be reasonable if the defendant, 1, knew or had reason to believe that the person against whom the deadly force was used, A, unlawfully and with force entered or was attempting to enter unlawfully and with force the third person's occupied habitation, vehicle, or place of business or employment. B, unlawfully and with force removed or was attempting to remove unlawfully and with force the third person from the defendant's habitation, vehicle, or place of business or employment. Or C, was committing or attempting to commit aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. 2, the defendant and the third person did not provoke the person against whom the force was used. And 3, the defendant and third person was not otherwise engaged in criminal activity other than a Class C misdemeanor that is a violation of the law or ordinance regulating traffic at the time the force was used. A person who has a right to be present at the location where deadly force is used, who has not provoked the person against whom the deadly force is used, and who is not engaged in criminal activity at the time the deadly force is used, is not required to retreat before using deadly force, and a finder of fact may not consider whether the actor or third person failed to retreat in determining whether an actor reasonably believed that the use of deadly force was necessary. Reasonable belief means a belief that would be held by an ordinary and prudent person in the same circumstances as the defendant. Page 6. Deadly force means force that is intended or known by the person using it to cause, or in the manner of its use or intended use, is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. Habitation means a structure or vehicle that is adapted for the overnight accommodation of persons and includes A, each separately secured or occupied portion of the structure, and B, each structure appertinent to or connected with the structure. The presumption of reasonable belief applies unless the state proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the facts giving rise to the presumption do not exist. If the state fails to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the facts giving rise to the presumption do not exist, the jury must find that the presumed fact exists. If the jury has a reasonable doubt as to whether the presumed fact
She has the
exists,
most
the presumption applies, and the
wonderful.
jury must
I
consider
am
the
done with
presumed
this
facts
face
to
on right
exist.
now.
Application of defense of a third person
That
to
face
the
was an
offense of murder.
11.
Therefore, if you
Yeah.
find from the evidence beyond a
And he
reasonable
just looks
doubt that on or
bewildered.
about the 9th day of October 2020, the defendant, Darrin Lopez, did then and there intentionally or knowingly cause the death of James Faith by shooting James Faith with a firearm, a deadly weapon. Or if you find that the defendant, Darrin Lopez, did then and there intend to cause serious bodily injury to James Faith and
Calling her?
did then and there commit an act clearly dangerous to human
No,
life,
I
to
think
wit,
they're doing
by shooting James Faith with a firearm, a deadly
closing
weapon, and
statements.
did thereby cause the death of James Faith as alleged in the indictment. But
You need to get
you
more
further
proof.
find from the evidence, or you have a reasonable doubt thereof, that viewed from the standpoint of the defendant at the time, from the words or conduct or both of James Faith, if it reasonably appeared to the defendant that the life or person of Jennifer Faith was in danger, and there was created in the defendant's mind a reasonable expectation or fear of Jennifer Faith's death or serious bodily injury from the unlawful use of force at the hands of James Faith, and that acting under such apprehension and reasonably believing that the use of deadly force by his intervention on his part was immediately necessary to protect Jennifer Faith against James Faith's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force, or to prevent the imminent commission by James Faith of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery, then you will find the defendant not guilty.
Wait,
If you find from the evidence beyond
Why
a
are they-
reasonable doubt,
I'm
I'm confused.
well, so it looks like the
The essay and stuff. What's he talking about?
okay, so what I gathered, having actually shut my mouth and listened, it's a new scale.
Well, I had to get off, and I'm like, was so confused.
Oh.
on what he's talking about.
So what they're trying to place into there is kind of, I think, a hybrid defense. Like he, in his heart of hearts, definitely believed that, Jen was being assaulted and everything by evil Jamie and Jeremy. So if he went in with that intention, you can, I believe, do self-defense in protection of others. Sir, you are so fat. It's hard for you to get up. Fine. He's like, I is not fat. I is just fluffy and I'm tired now. But I guess they're trying to put in that, okay, if he did act, it was in defense of others because he definitely believed that all the things. It looks like the state's pretty confident they let this stuff in. So I think she's pretty much like, everyone can smell the BS. Or the defense didn't do a good enough job of showing this man being incompetent, or at least.
I think she took that one away yesterday when they talked about his planning, his going down there, his why
Yeah.
didn't you just call someone else? So there was no immediate danger. It would be hard for me, but again, it's a jury of 12 people. It's feelings. And Wolfram, yeah, you can just put in a guilty and then remember to write to everyone who said, well, maybe he believed it in chat that they're stupid like they do over on the other channel. So, and Josie, yeah, this detective has a really nice suit game.
There have been some lovely, lovely suits here. I know it was a little big, but I'm still gonna vote for Mr. Binder Man, and I'm biased that he had a wonderful binder. So he was still the most sharp dressed, but like 3-piece suits, we had some suit game. And then we had bodyguard with plaid and stripes, and I don't even
It was
understand.
really it's been, contrary to all the other cases we have been watching, this has been a good suit game case.
Yes.
Yeah, the reasonable is the word that I find it hard for the jury because, again, reasonable. But we have seen before that someone maybe felt that they should get a lesser included, and then I will say it, when we go on verdict watch, how fast it come back. If it takes a long time, I think reasonable will come into play.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's an open and shut case on one hand, and then it's very murky on the other hand. So I don't,
Like how we've been talking. I
and he
still feel
didn't,
like Dean really did manipulate the crap out of him.
I know, and I so wanted Jen to come here and be the Jenny to her Forrest. Like, no, I totally, but no, she's like,
No, and she's still manipulating him by not showing up and defending him. So again,
yeah,
she puts herself um, over
Only
everyone else.
like it was my
Yeah.
fault,
Yeah. So
which she did, but they weren't allowed to bring it in really. So
well, we watched the Burgos trial, and yeah, they had some fashion, but again. But let's get back to these very inspiring jury
At the time and
instructions.
place in question, that the defendant did not reasonably believe that Jennifer Faith was in danger of death or serious bodily injury, or that the defendant, under the circumstances as viewed by him from his standpoint at the time, did not reasonably believe that the degree of
But
deadly
reasonable,
force actually used
is
by
it the
him was
defendant or
immediately
a
necessary to
person,
protect
a
Jennifer
normal
Faith
person?
against James Faith's use or
We haven't
attempted
heard
use
that
of
he
unlawful
couldn't
deadly
make rational
force, or
decisions.
prevent James Faith's imminent commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder,
Yeah,
sexual assault,
as I
aggravated
just said,
sexual assault, robbery,
as a jury,
or
would you
aggravated
think this is
robbery,
just too
and you
way
should
out
find
there?
against the
Because they
defendant
haven't proven
on
that
the
he
issue
couldn't
of
make
defense of
rational
the third
thoughts.
person. Evidentiary instructions.
I
Times throughout
figured
the
it
trial,
out.
the court
I'm
has been
listening
called upon
to the
pass on the
sentencing
question of whether or
thing
not certain
on
offered evidence might
my
properly be
phone
admitted.
to see
You
when
are
they
not to
start
be
doing
concerned with
this.
the reasons for such
I'm a
rulings and are
genius.
not to draw any inferences from them. Whether offered evidence is admissible is purely a question of law. In admitting evidence to which an objection is made, the court neither determines what weight should be given such evidence, nor passes on the credibility of the witnesses. As to any offer of evidence that has been rejected by the court, you, of course, page 8, must not consider the same. As to any question to which an objection was sustained, you must not conjecture as to what the answer might have been or as to the reason for the objection. Indictment. An indictment is the means whereby a defendant is brought to trial in a felony prosecution. It is not evidence of guilt, nor can it be considered by you in passing upon the question of guilt of the defendant. The fact that the defendant has been arrested, confined, indicted, or otherwise charged with the offense does not give rise to any inference of guilt at his trial. Extraneous conduct. You were instructed that if there is any testimony before you in this case regarding the defendant's acts, if any, other than the offense charged in the indictment, you cannot consider that testimony for any purpose unless you find and believe beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such acts, if any were committed. Even then, you may only consider it in determining motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, absence of mistake or accident, and for no other purpose. In all prosecutions for murder, the state or the defendant shall be permitted to offer testimony as to all relevant facts and circumstances surrounding the killing and the previous relationship existing between the accused and the deceased, together with all relevant facts and circumstances going to show the condition of the mind of the accused at the time of the offense. Fifth Amendment. Our law provides that a defendant may testify in his own behalf if he elects to do so. In this case, the defendant has elected to testify. Presumptions and burden of proof. All persons are presumed to be innocent, and no person may be convicted of an offense unless each element of the offense is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The law does not require, page 9, the defendant to prove his innocence or produce any evidence at all. The presumption of innocence alone is sufficient to acquit the defendant.
This is just a
Unless you
boilerplate.
decide
So
beyond
I'll
a reasonable
pull up
doubt of
two.
the defendant's guilt after carrying
The lesser included, yeah,
I was
there is
about-
the
The
self-defense
burden
one.
of proof is in all criminal cases.
It could be
rests upon the
okay,
state throughout the trial.
the first degree. I didn't hear that there was second degree or
Prosecution
anything
has the
else.
burden of proving the defendant guilty, and it must do so by
Well,
proving
didn't he
each and
name
every
off
element
just
of
a
the
bunch,
offense
Mo,
charged
that
beyond a
I said
reasonable
were
doubt.
weird?
If the state fails
Oh,
to meet
yeah.
its burden, you must
We are
acquit the
weird.
defendant. It is not
No.
required that the prosecution
I'm sorry.
prove
I'm
Mo-
listening
Mo-
to the.
possible
You're
doubt.
fine.
It is
Mo is
required that the
multitasking.
prosecution
Was
prove
there any
beyond
mention of lesser
reasonable
included in the
doubt
first
concerning the
degree?
defendant's guilt, including
Not
instructions.
that I'm hearing
You
of.
were charged
Right
that
now,
it
the
is only from the
grandmother is
witness
doing
stand
victim
who is
impact.
No,
permitted
in this
to prove
case.
evidence regarding
In
the
this
In this
case.
case,
No
in this
juror is
case, I'm not
permitted
quite
to
sure
admit
lesser
a jury of
included,
any
but
type. They
it
may
seems like the
affirm
defense
regarding the
might
case
have push them
from any
in with
source
the
other than the witness
self-defense kind of angle.
Yeah,
Deliver
yeah,
or
evidence
but that's
of
the
it.
only
not to
lesson
refer
included,
to
that
or
it was
discuss any matter or
reasonable
issue not
to
in
believe
evidence
that she
before you.
was
Further, you shall not discuss
uh,
this case
in
with
danger.
anyone out of your
That's the
jury.
only lesson
You are the
included. And then we
exclusive
had
judges of the facts proved. Of the
that, yeah, they
credibility of
brought
the
in the
witnesses
military
and of the
side
weight to be
to
given
try
their
and say
testimony,
he
but
had a
you are bound to receive
some
and
kind of
follow the law
PTSD and he could
from the court,
think a
which is
different
given to
way,
you in
but they
these written
didn't really
instructions.
use him
After
well.
you have
I
retired to consider your
rewatched
verdict,
it
no
this
one has
morning.
any authority to
I
communicate with you
I don't
except the
feel it
bailiff
was a
who
good
has you in his
testimony.
or her charge.
I'm
I,
sorry to
You
say.
may communicate with
no,
this court in writing,
I feel like they
signed by
should
your
have
presiding
maybe
judge
touched on
and
the
date pronouncing
PTSD,
the charge.
but
Do not
then, or
attempt to
that
talk to the
gentleman
bailiff
did
or
a
the
fairly
court
good job
to
of what he
determine
did, but then
or
have
show
a
you what testimony they
neuropsychologist
have.
or a
After
neuro
argument of
person
counsel, you will
to really
retire and
explain
select one
what
of your members.
Yeah,
multiple
what's
traumatic
wrong?
brain
Preside over the jury.
injuries,
It is
multiple
his or her duty to
concussions,
preside at the
because I'm
deliberations
not
and is
saying the
appropriate for
VA
you
will
to decide the
downgrade
final
your
verdict.
very serious
Page
things
3.
because,
Your verdict must be unanimous. And
reasons,
after you have arrived
but
at
it
your
has
verdict,
happened before.
you may use one of the
Yeah,
forms attached
and that's
by
what I'm
having your
thinking.
presiding jury complete and sign a
As
particular
Twisted
form
says here,
that conforms
th-
to your
they
particular
will
verdict.
probably try to
Signed
mitigate
by
it
me,
downwards
Birmingham,
during the
presiding judge,
sentencing
the 200
because they
Yeah.
know
Judicial
the
District
heavy
Court
lifting,
by
just
Mr.
as in
Dallas,
ship business, the
Massachusetts.
heavy lifting
Page
will
10
be in the
contains the verdict
sentencing
form.
Yeah.
You will
because
see that it instructs you to choose one, and that's because they are mutually exclusive.
and
First
if
verdict
you're
is
interested in the
the
ship
jury
business
unanimously find the
sentencing,
defendant,
I
Darrin
can
Lopez, guilty of murder,
recommend the
as
expert if
charged
he's
in the
streaming
indictment.
today.
And there's a spot
White
for the
Rabbit could
presiding
probably
judge
tell
to
us.
sign and pen his or her
Someone could
name
probably
after
share a
it
link.
conforms to your unanimous
He has been doing a
verdict.
fantastic, and
Again, they are mutually exclusive.
he's just like us.
You,
He's
the
one of
jury,
the
unanimously find
smaller
the defendant,
channels,
Darrin
and we
Lopez,
small channels, we
not
should have some
guilty,
love.
and there's a spot
All the
again
big
for
Yes.
channels,
the
everyone,
sign and pen
even
his or
David
her
wants
name
to go on the
once
big
that
channels.
conforms to your unanimous verdict.
But
Court recognize the Honorable Caitlin Paver on behalf
So,
of the state.
now it's closing argument.
You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge.
easy, Salbert.
May it please the court, counsel.
Oh goodness, what did I do?
Ladies and gentlemen, the idea that Darrin Lopez was justified in killing, in executing Jamie Faith, it is as absurd and unbelievable as those fake emails. Even if you give him every benefit of the doubt, even if you believe what he told you from this witness stand, which much of it was untrue or misleading, even if you were to believe all of that, it still does not justify the murder of Jamie Faith. You have been given the law on defense of a third person. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about this in Dyer. It has to be a reasonable belief. Yes, that means subjectively from the defendant's point of view, but it also means, and it's in here, the definition is in here, an ordinary and prudent person in the defendant's shoes. What did he reasonably believe? What would an ordinary and prudent person have reasonably believed in his shoes? What would an ordinary and prudent person have done? Would they not have tried to gather more information to get more answers about this supposed abuse that was going on? Absolutely. That is an ordinary and prudent person acting that way. But not him. He didn't seek any additional information. He just accepted the emails and the texts as he was receiving them. And as for the texts, we don't have them. So you just have to take his word for it that that's what was going on. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard about his mental health, about his PTSD. He has a mild TBI. He has some attention issues. And I'm certainly not going to diminish that he served his country and that he was injured doing so. That is true. But it does not excuse this behavior. In fact, to the contrary, he is more equipped than anyone else to conduct some reconnaissance. He told you he was trained by the ATF in reconnaissance. So why not go do a little reconnaissance of your own and figure out if this abuse is actually happening? He's trained in situational awareness, assessing threats, all of these things because he was special forces. So in fact, I think you can hold him to a higher standard than a reasonable person.
That's not the law, Your Honor. The state of the law burdens and higher standard they're going to hold him to.
It's the defendant's subjective belief.
Members of the jury, if the lawyers say anything in conflict with what's written on the jury charge, you go with what's written in the jury charge.
Well, I have to say, he brought up approximately 1 trillion times that he had special service training. He was specially trained. He was extra special trained. So she can use it in his closing arguments that he had specialist training. Because if he can put it in, he is better than you are. Because he got training. You should hold it against him as well.
A ranger, which is what it sounds like he was, then that's kind of their job. They go in front and scout the area. So, yeah, sir, you couldn't. Whatever.
That's a stupid objection. Again, it's in the papers that they can't hold him to any other standard. But if they want to hammer it in his argument, they should be able to be hammered with it in return.
Yeah, that's the thing. You bring in stuff and you have to be able to see how that's the fun thing about this. I think that you and I and Jamie like is that you can bring in a piece of evidence and that, depending on the way you shine the light on it, the way you word things, that evidence could be a pro for one side and a big con for the other, but it also could be the opposite.
Yeah.
But,
and that's the key. You can't just say, well, my PTSD, my brain injury made me do it. You have to then you have to put on a person who says he can't do anything. He's not capable of making any rational thoughts. But then he shouldn't be here. Then he should be unable to stand trial. So, just my 2 cents. Yeah. If he has all the specialist training, but again, he was a medic. He was trained to do extra field dressings and keeping a soldier alive, because as a special forces medic, you can be out front in a longer time. But they used it to prove he had some training that led him to believe he had to kill this guy. Then they should accept the state using it against them in closing. And again, closing is not evidence.
You can consider his training, his experience, all of those things when you think about what his subjective belief would be. All of that fell by the wayside when it came to getting Jamie Faith out of the way so that he could have.
Wolfram, as I said yesterday, it's just a stupid excuse, because there are, I don't know how many millions of soldiers the US have had deployed since he was in Iraq and Kuwait. Not all of them goes around killing former girlfriends, husbands. It's kind of like the force was too excessive when you try to say, well, you can't self-defend by shooting a guy 2 times, but 1 time would be enough. It's kind of the same here, that we can use that he had special training and he was such an amazing guy when it suits you, but you can't use it against him. And again, it's just stupid, because he was living 10 hours away. If he was a sound thinking military special forces, he would have thought on the way down, well, maybe I'm just going to stop by the Dallas police station and go over there and say, tomorrow she's going to be gang raped on, I can't say raped, on their walk with the dog. So again, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Jennifer Faith. He did nothing to investigate. And let's talk about immediately
Mo will do it when we go on verdict watch.
Necessary. It has to be immediate. That means now, right this moment, action is needed. Not in a few minutes, not in a few hours, not later today, not this weekend. Right now, a split-second decision. Fear of future danger is never enough. And certainly when you have premeditated an execution, there is nothing immediate about it. He drove 650 miles halfway across the country, 10 hours to ambush Jamie Faith. What is immediate about that? Even when he got to Dallas, he sat in the vacant house next door for hours before he acted. There was nothing immediate, and there was nothing necessary. Necessary means you have to do this. You have no other options. This is your only choice. We are talking about the taking of a human life being justified. It is a high standard. It has to be your only option. Ladies and gentlemen, Darrin Lopez had so many options that he did not take. He could have reached out to Jennifer's family. He could have tried to find her friends. He could have called American Airlines. These are all things he discusses. He considers them and then glosses right over them. He could have done the thing that every reasonable person would have done, which is call the police. He could have helped her just escape. He's special forces. Why don't you come on an escape mission? Not an execution. He had so many choices, and the only thing he did, he emailed Rob. That was how he handled this. I'll just email Rob, this guy I've never met. And when he doesn't do anything, I don't know. I guess I'll just skip all the other options and jump straight to murder. Absolutely not necessary. Nothing immediate and nothing necessary about it. And you will get that in the charge. You also will see in here, he can only use deadly force in response to deadly force or imminent harm. There was nothing imminent that was about to happen to Jennifer Faith. At most, he said, maybe Jamie would sometimes burn her on these walks. You don't get to kill someone because you think he might burn someone with a cigarette in a few minutes. That's absurd. And you will see in here the presumption. And if you read these provisions carefully, you will see it absolutely does not apply.
Agree.
I want you in particular to pay attention to the part about provoking the person. James Faith did nothing to provoke anyone in this situation. He was truly a completely innocent victim, walking along totally unsuspecting. That tells you that Darrin Lopez is not entitled to the presumption. There was nothing reasonable, immediate, or necessary about what he did. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's assuming that you believe that he believed those emails. They were absurd. You saw those pictures that he was receiving. They were clearly stills from pornographic movies. They were very explicit. Ladies and gentlemen, either you see those and you immediately know this is not real, or you see those and you immediately know I need to help somebody right this minute. You don't sit on it and wait 186 days. That's how long from the first time he heard about her abuse to the date he killed James Faith. 186 days went by that he did not act. He knew there was, even if you want to say, okay, maybe he didn't know for sure that they were fake, he knew there was something amiss. Any reasonable person would know that there was something off about those emails.
These emails.
Thank you, Judge. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that because he sent that strangulation picture to himself. It's nowhere else on his phone, and you better believe if it had been emailed to him from that fake Jamie Faith account, he would not have deleted it. He didn't delete those emails. He sent it to himself, and you can go look at it. He sends it, there's a draft, he sends it to himself. He sends it to himself with a named file that's a series of numbers, and then when he sends it to Rob, he has retitled it, Choking.
Griffin.
And he says to Rob, this is what he sent to me. Absolutely not. He was participating in it at that point. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit more about how you know that they had agreed on this. And I want you to pay attention to these dates in particular. On August 21st, Jen Faith texts Tina and says, I cut ties with Darrin. And we know that's not true. We know that's not true because the next day they're talking. And these are just the calls that are left in the call log. There's probably more out there, but they're talking. August 22nd, Google Doc, concerns / things to be addressed / done, shared by Jennifer Faith. August 22nd. They continue talking. August 29th, she sends it back to him. Invitation to edit. Concerns, things to be addressed or done. What do you think is in that document that they made sure was deleted?
Evidence of
continue
nothing
talking?
is not evidence.
Apparently watching
I mean-
pornography together. More talking. And ladies and gentlemen, September 3rd, she deletes those fake email accounts. Why would she delete them on September 3rd? Because she knew she didn't need them anymore. They
But
had
did
reached
he know
their
that she
agreement.
deleted
The
them?
execution plan was underway. And he tells you
We don't
September
know.
that month, they did exchange
I mean, it's a
text
lot of
messages where she's telling him,
Inference.
you gotta have a front license plate in Texas. This is what time my pool boy is here in the morning. And he said, don't worry, I'm just gonna take the freeways, maybe once through downtown. This was premeditated. 100% premeditated. And it was so that he could have her. It wasn't to protect her. It was to get Jamie Faith out of his way. You heard on that video with the gunshots being fired, we hear someone say, hey, right before the gunshots. We don't know if it was the defendant or Jamie Faith. It could have been Jamie Faith's last words. What we do know is that Jamie Faith, either he said hey or he heard him say hey and he turned around and he saw what was about to happen to him. He saw a masked man running up on him, ambushing him in the street when he's walking his dog. He knew those moments were his last. We talked a lot about honor.
How did you know
And they
that?
talked a lot about honor. There was no honor in this. This was the most dishonorable thing that a man can do. The execution of an innocent person for personal gain. And he is guilty of murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faber. Court recognize the Honorable Cliff Duke on behalf of the defense, sir.
So,
Huh?
how do we feel about her closing? I think she hit all the notes. Her voice was a little irritating, but
She
I
got
think she
it.
did a
What
good job.
Yeah.
What I don't like is we don't have it. It was deleted, so it definitely means this. I don't like
Mhm.
No,
that she was, you have plenty of evidence that this was all shenanigans. You don't need to go, well, it's deleted, but it could have meant this, or those could have been James Faith's last words.
yeah,
It-
that made my brain itch. Did they? I wasn't here when they showed the pictures. Did they say it was from a porn? Did they do a
Uh,
a
I don't
back?
know if they're, yeah, I don't know. Maybe one
Thank
of
you
the
so
baby
much, Wendy.
lawyers knew.
I can't
Thank
remember
you.
that.
Think all of the stuff that they're talking about they're into. They're just implying like this sadistic, crazy thing. And it's like,
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
some of it was old photos. They said that.
Well, I think there were
Lefty,
several explicit, really like this is what had happened to her kind of things that were sent to her. I don't think they showed, obviously they didn't show it online, but I think she cropped things from certain hubs, if you will,
yeah.
and said, this is, what they do. They film me. It's terrible.
Yeah, and
They never said it.
no, they never showed those. But the injury photos, they found out where they were from. Some were old photos of her, and others were just some she took off the net. Yeah, I feel just like John Gary, and I think the judge have put a time limit on it to keep it short and sweet. He has been a really good job. Reindeer thinks she's good too. I think she had a strong close. She went more into narrative than I would have. Yeah, but again, for an American lawyer, which I always say talks too much, I think they did a good job. But he say 5 minutes or 10 minutes when he the judge spoke?
I don't.
I didn't catch
No,
that.
that's probably not important. But I think like half an hour is probably the right time, because they read the jury instruction. We've been going for 50 minutes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that she came out swinging, and it was home runs, but she fell off a little in the batting percentage in the later part of the game. That's a sports ball reference. We are multifaceted on this channel.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I can't tell you, Twisted, if because we didn't see the graphic pics, because you have to remember she informed him that he used her as a, can I say, a sex toy for 7 of his friends and stuff like that. So it could have been pictures that wasn't shown, because we weren't. At an accident we saw some parts of him not being there anymore, but that was an accident. Yeah, and yesterday, according to him, he couldn't see through any of this smoke and mirror that she put up. But let's see how the defense does it, because I think right now, as we always say, when we go to the states, when they end the case, you have to feel he's guilty, and I did. I didn't think that the defense did enough to pull it back. So let's see if
No.
they can deliver one age of ending.
This is your jury. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Wanted to say something, Mo? Nope. For the
Ladies
play
and
you want to
gentlemen,
do.
This paper said something very clear that I want you to understand, that Darrin Lopez and Mr. Sanchez and myself, and I think all of us completely understand, is that Jamie Faith did absolutely nothing to provoke Darrin Lopez in any way, shape, or form. But this woman, his wife of over 15 years, created a monster out of the person that was Jamie Faith, that absolutely provoked and terrified Darrin Lopez to this point of action. And understand that it was absolutely no mistake. You heard from Keith Duncan when he took the time to call in yesterday and be able to tell you that when he found out about what had gone on, it was close enough that almost 30 years later, it concerned him enough to call the FBI and say, hey, you've got to know about this, that she's done this before. She's done it exactly like this before. And she's been doing it since the time that Darrin and Jennifer first had that ever important romance that has been central to his life for his entire life. His first love that he held on to through war, through torture, through injury, and through failures, and that then he reconnected with, and that she immediately began to take advantage of. We have an advantage here, ladies and gentlemen. We have an advantage of all of the communication that you get to take back, that you can walk through from March 17th, date by date, all the way up and through, and follow what went along. And the state's implication that Darrin had some idea that this was fake or that this was wrong is ridiculous. This paper told you during voir dire, you don't leave your common sense at the door. look at the emails, look at the communications, look at his testimony and what he has been able to tell you consistently throughout this entire process. And I want to take a couple minutes and talk to you and show you exactly what happened. That the two of them did reconnect. That she was important enough to him and had been for so long that he felt like it was important, that he had been drafting a letter to her even before he found her again. But from the beginning, he's not looking to steal her away from her marriage or to break up the marriage or immediately get her back, but that she was important enough to seek out again and reconnect with and tell her what she had meant as he was going through his 18 and a half years and 6 deployments in Iraq. That he had no desire to break up that marriage. But immediately, the two of them do connect. Jennifer tells him about how her marriage is broken, about how she is unhappy. And the two of them start an almost immediate emotional affair, and understanding where Darrin has been holding on to her for 2 decades, and how exciting it must be that she is interested and excited and as willing to re-engage with him. And Jennifer's been practicing this for 30 years. And what's some of the first things that she's talking about? How important it was to her for when he held on to her. She knows how important she was to him. And start.
I don't know anything about this consensual BDSM thingy, if it's legislating legislation going through in the US or something. But the problem in this case is that she wouldn't testify against her husband allegedly if he called the police. So this isn't even the consensual BDSM. She wouldn't even testify to the abuse that she claims she suffered. So
Yeah.
it's way different than a voluntary BDSM thing. She would,
Yeah.
and we know this from a lot of battered spouse cases. They protect the husband. We could see the Sarah Boone case. Both of them had been to jail like 3 or 4 times for beating each other, and the next day they take them out of prison. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's some mental thing that makes it really hard to understand for people who hasn't been in it.
Thing to ask about his injuries and how those affected him. She admits to her friend even. The two of them are having a full-blown emotional affair.
The friend
Now,
hated
we may not like people getting in between marriages. We may not like the fact that marriages break down and that relationships don't work on both sides. But that doesn't remove us from what then happens as Jennifer Faith begins to manipulate this entire situation. When she creates a fake email for her husband, when she's already been texting Darrin as her husband, saying, I've got you and I'm punishing her for you two running around behind my back. The scary thing here, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's no evidence that's been admitted here at all that Jamie even knew that the two of them were ever communicating. That he was completely innocent in all of this. But Jennifer was portraying him as this monster as she started to ratchet things up. That she started to be emotionally abused by her husband. And then she began to start to become physically abused by her husband. And I'm sorry that I'm going to click through a few of these emails and make you look at them again. Because these are traumatic emails to folks like us, just looking at them with none of the connection. But it's important to remember, as Ms. Paver pointed out, from a subjective view, from Darrin's point of view, and from an objective view, in Darrin's shoes, what these were doing to him for the love of his life. When he's telling him about gang bang, triple penetration, that's what we'll be doing to her.
I love how everyone's like, I've never
Lining
even
people
been to a
up.
hub. I have no
And the
idea what this
injuries that
is.
he had done to him. This is Jennifer turning her husband, James Faith, into a monster. Let's remember when this is. Society is shut down. We are on lockdown. Darrin has already been extremely removed from everybody, even before COVID. And this is what he is getting about the love of his life. I want to take a sidestep for just a minute and talk about, the inconsistencies in these emails. And clearly, Darrin knew that because he was emailing these things to himself, because he had already got these injury photos and then is still asking them from Jennifer. We'll take a look again, because the email that Darrin sends back to Jamie is, P.S. I just got your email. Your sick birthday shit stops now. He hadn't got the injury photos. He was asking Jennifer, I need one photo, one pic, give me something. And then he sees this email from Jamie after the fact when he's already sent that back. I just got your email. This stops now. And the infamous choking picture. You heard from Jordan Exman and also from their own technical expert who wasn't as forthcoming with it. They said it's very plausible and very reasonable that when you get something on a text, you've got to put it somewhere. And like a 50-year-old man, he's going to save it.
Yeah, mental abuse. It's really hard to prove, because you can't take a picture of your husband calling you fat all day and a lazy C word, or your wife saying you're just a no good son of a gun. Why don't you make more money? Your penis too small. You can't prove that. So the non-physical abuse is really hard to prove. Without we saw it in the AA's case. There was a lot of non-physical abuse as well as physical abuse, but she kept demeaning this guy, and luckily enough, he had some tapes of what she did to him, which I think proved to the jury that she was also a bad guy. But it's really hard to prove that you are in a hostile environment in your home.
In his email, and that's exactly what we have here. It's put into the cache at the exact same time that he saves it into his own email. There's nothing nefarious about this. This isn't that he had it for years. There's the implication that this somehow tells Darrin that this is all fake. Aha, I've got it. Is ridiculous. That this is what they're pointing to, that he somehow should have known that Jennifer was manipulating him to this level, is beyond ridiculous. And then Darrin is still doing everything he can, as Jamie has had that birthday weekend, an important weekend. And look back at the dates in 2020. Look at the emails. This was all weekend leading up to Monday with the pictures. And Darrin's doing what he can at this point, right? He's trying to threaten Jamie through the emails. He's telling him, I'm going to call the cops. I will have a domestic disturbance out there. And what do we hear then? That Jennifer automatically is getting back, no, I'm okay. It's okay. Stop. Don't call the police. I don't want to get Amber involved. I'm going to deny everything. And what do we know at that point? If the police come out and Jennifer denies everything, and now Jamie knows that the police have been called, what's the ramp up at that level? Thank you, Judge. He's doing everything that he can, but Jennifer needs to pull him back. And so she creates Rob. So she's now impersonating two different individuals to give Darrin the way to get out and say, hey, look at what's going on. Get involved in this life. You know the two of them better. You can be involved and help step in. And things get better. We've got this spike in May, and then for the next 3 months, things get better. And again, we do see that the two of their relationship, Darrin is feeling better when they're talking and they're texting. They're building their relationship together, and things are not as bad as home because Rob has intervened and Jamie has been pulled back from the brink of this ridiculous, destructive, abusive action. And the two of them are having their emotional affair and their long distance relationship at this point, because it is more than just the emotional affair at this point. They are sexually engaged even though they are not together. That Darrin somehow is the one that is pushing this sadomasochistic evil stuff on Jennifer, even though that she's a rape victim. Read the letter again. We can see exactly where this is coming from. I'm finding out that you have an interest in Dom sub things. The way that I role play makes me a daddy Dom without even knowing it. Jennifer is introducing this thing that Darrin is interested in, and the love of his life, surprise, surprise, he is wanting to do exactly what she wants to be able to build that relationship more and more. She is the one introducing this. She is the one pushing the envelope. She is the one bringing Darrin into it. And even then, folks, it's insane insulting to victims of rape to compare a consensual BDSM relationship and gang rape. Those are two very different things. And the two of them are absolutely in love. And then things start getting worse again. He's cutting her hair. He's burning her with cigarettes. Jennifer is pushing on the accelerator back towards danger and threat and terrifying Darrin to the point that he's overreacting. 3 hours. I mean, good grief, I can go a couple of days sometimes without hearing somebody without panicking. But Darrin Lopez, 3 hours and he's emailing Rob freaking out. Is she okay? And then she pulls the only outlet line that he's got. Rob goes away. He has no other person to reach out to. Jennifer has shut down any ability for Darrin to be able to reach out and try to help from where he is isolated and scared and terrified for what's going on. And she pushes on the accelerator to the point that Darrin is tracking her every moment through the Las Vegas trip, terrified that she might just disappear, and at least I've got some Google data to tell the police where she was the last time. And she's pushing on the accelerator as she is building up where she drowned by her husband in a hot tub to where he had to resuscitate her, and where he's going to do it again. Almost 6,000 texts between the two of them between October 1st and October 9th, pushing on the accelerator, scared of that anniversary date, scared of how things are building up, terrified of what Jamie is doing, leading up to a date certain, an anniversary weekend that's going to be special, where she is going to be drowned now, not just on one man's penis, but on multiple, and see how long it takes her to come back.
All right.
As Jennifer is pushing the envelope, creating this monster of her creation onto Darrin Lopez. And as you're thinking
That
about
court
all of
reporter,
this,
like,
you have to,
he just
number
say
one,
penis.
think about it from Darrin Lopez's perspective, the subjective perspective. And then number two, you have to look at it objectively of a reasonable person in his shoes as a damaged, broken, 100% disabled war veteran. Thinking about every failure in his life for the family of Jeff Frensley that died in 2008. When he failed to save his granddaughter Skylar in 2009. When he failed Don Garland, his Special Forces teammate who took his life in 2012. When he failed with his identity, was taken away, ending his military career, the entirety of his life taken away because of a medical discharge. When he failed to stand up for his family and was beaten by a debt collector in 2000.
I'm not sure what you're asking about, what he just said, but I did the math. They sent 23 and a half texts per minute over those 10 days.
Jiminy Christmas. Yeah, so what Jennifer said that evil Jamie did was, I don't know if she had a snorkel. I'm not sure the physics. We will have Sal try to figure that out because he's our science guy. Y'all, I'm telling you, we need a Mythbusters for crime. Like, I know Baker's gonna find CERN and he's gonna throw knives at him until he gets one right dead center, for science.
Yeah, Courtney Clenny style.
Courtney Clenny, yeah.
Sal is gonna have to see if you can drown in a hot tub, and I will find a suitcase somewhere that's big enough for Mr. Mo. And we have a new show. But yeah, apparently the threat was that he had forced her to mouth hug him underwater until she passed out.
I love that word.
She woke up with him doing CPR, and she still stayed with him because that's what you do. And yeah, he's doing a good closing, but I still don't think it's enough. Yeah, she could have driven. She could have walked to the neighbors and said, "My husband is doing this, she could have called the police. At one point, she's alleged that she was bound to the bed and had her phone so he can text Darrin what evil Jamie was doing to her. You can call the police in that instance. It's
Yeah.
again, any
There-
reasonable person would figure out this is just too stupid. And I like where did John Gary again? I wouldn't. I wasn't gonna cut off the closing here, but he didn't fail his comrade in arms because he chose to self-delete, and it was in 2012. That's 8 years before the murder, and we're talking about a guy who drove 600 miles to delete another guy, waited for hours before this guy came out, and then he deleted him. That's not something you do because 8 years before a friend of yours self-deleted. I know why they want to put it in, but it sounds like a tearjerker, but again, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Yeah, I like his closing, and I know why he's hitting the notes he's hitting, but again, it doesn't allow a man to drive 600 miles, lay in waiting, and delete another person. Well, probably the wrong part because she couldn't breathe underwater. Yeah. I have to say, I know the expert have been doing a great job covering the Ship Business trial, but this trial, it has had its moments. We had 2 hours of middle-aged people smexting. At one point, evil Jamie had apparently raped Jennifer, and she writes to this guy, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just got your vibrator." Oh, nice. 2 seconds after, she was telling him about being raped. Yeah. I told Nicholas I will be on for the first hour tonight because it starts 11 my time, and I have to be in my Marine club tomorrow and attend the bar. So I will have a beer or two. I can't stay up that late. He's an old guy. Yeah, you can dress up a shitty pie as much as you want, but it still tastes like shit.
But it is pie, so it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like pizza. Even when it's bad pizza, it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part, and that's what the jury is sitting here thinking.
Yeah, but he
5,600.
was saying he was going to deny everything. That's the whole thing too.
Yeah, but again,
I know, but I'm just saying that was said.
well, Sal, I will set up a stream, and I think we will probably, if I can find it, we'll look at the interview this wonderful lady did when she talked about the crime. We can cover that. It's about 2 minutes, so that should be done in the 1.5 hour we normally do. It will be half an hour or so later tomorrow if you can join us. We have seen pictures. She looks
She
kind
looks
of
like-
she looks melted.
Have you ever seen Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs? It's kind of what she looks like, mixed with a roadie from late Leonard Skinner, early 80s.
It's for former Marines, so we won't be wearing any uniforms in our Saturday come together and drink a beer. But we suit up when we have parties. Yeah. Again, he in his mind, even when his lawyers told him she was pulling your leg, she said, "No, I saved her. I saved her." I haven't seen any remorse.
Mhm.
I never made a peach pie. As long as it's enough cheesecake, I could probably make one.
Try a derby pie. They're
I made mud pie,
yum-tastic.
Mississippi mud pie. I made that one.
I'm not a fan of pudding.
Ma'am.
I know. I'm weird.
No,
No, you're
Mads,
not.
it would be okay if I said a seaman club.
2014.
Yeah.
Very true.
As his marriage failed and his wife has moved on to somebody else.
There
Darrin
will be
could
a big
not
promotion in the end.
fail.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. Mr. Sanchez, you have 17 minutes out of the 30 remaining. You may proceed whenever
Oh,
you're
thank
ready.
God. He gave them a time limit.
Let us
Like,
know when you have-
you have like
17 minutes.
6 minutes.
So
Because I
yeah,
didn't think Texas took like 8 days, didn't it?
Support council.
just to keep 27 times.
Good morning. You've been here all week. I know it's been hard. It's been hard for all of us to sit here and listen to the
Sir,
evidence.
don't use the word.
You didn't have a choice to be here.
Yeah.
You know, it was an invitation to come to serve on jury duty. It was an order that you received in the mail, and you all showed up, and we thank you for that.
Hey,
But
been
you
there,
did
done
have
that.
a choice. You had a choice whether to tell the truth during jury selection and whether you paid attention. And every time I looked over, every single juror was paying attention and doing their job. And I thank you for that. We had to sit through tedious evidence, 3 hours almost of email rereadings, but I didn't see anybody looking away. You're all looking intently because I think you're taking your job serious. And this is the time now, where, as I say, where the rubber meets the road. We've done all our job now. We've presented to you everything that we can present to you under the law. So now it's going to be in your hands. You are the ones that are going to go in the back and decide. We can't be back there trying to argue anymore with you on this case. You're on your own now as 12 individuals deciding what you're going to believe or not believe and where you're going to decide in this case. It's going to be a decision based on your own individual and moral assessment, as we talked about during jury selection. I look at the 12 of you, y'all.
Ben, this case has been a great case. It's been fast. It's been to the point. There hasn't been too much made up stuff. It's a case about a guy who got catfished by his former prom date so badly that he drove from Tennessee to Texas and took care of her husband problem. Allegedly, because he believed that he was gang raping, forcefully mouth hugging her underwater, so she died. And she had made different email accounts to keep this elaborate ruse going. And all of this is in evidence that she manipulated this guy. But the big question is that enough to give you the right to go and save her? He claims he's a former special forces medic, so he has special training. So that was what kicked in. But he has some brain injuries. He he took the stand, tried to tell a long story about how his love made him do it. He was so in love with her, even after she was in prison, and his lawyers sat him down and showed him the evidence that it was all her. The husband had nothing to do with it. He wouldn't believe him. So this trial has been a fascinating trial because there hasn't been too much circumstantial evidence. It's been there all the way through, and now we are at closing to see if the jury find it reasonable that he acted in a clear and present danger, or if he just straight up unalived the person. And so far, after following this trial since Tuesday and these closing arguments, I believe that the jury will reach the verdict of first degree. The sentencing part will be interesting in this because they can bring in how she manipulated him. That's the big part in this, so he can get a lesser sentence. Because as hard as I am, I still think she manipulated him in such a degree that he didn't know, and he was, sorry to say, stupid enough to fall for it.
She
So
knew the buttons to push, and he didn't do any critical thinking because he may be slow, but you believe what you want to believe. So if this is giving him a way to have Jen all to himself, then maybe he didn't want to look too closely at it.
yeah,
And
and
that's a
Jungmin,
choice.
yeah, and Jungmin, the Danish system is you have to apply every 4 years, and then you have to go through a selection process, and then you serve for 4 years, and you can serve until you are 70 years old, I believe, from 18 to 70 or 75 maybe. You can serve as long as you want. But normally, I'm just a crazy nerd, so I have been doing for a lot of years. Normally, people do 1 or 2 stints because it's in the daytime, and you have to take all time out of work for that. So yeah, we can serve for as long as we want, or as long as we get selected. Yeah, it's kind of like the nice cop who said, "Well, I'm just here to help." He yeah, he kind of looks like his bigger, well-to-do brother.
He really does. And he must really like purple because that's the, I think, third purple tie. Sal writes about, women. I write about ties
Yeah.
to remember things.
Jungmin, as you were told, as he mentioned before, not you were told, but as he mentioned before, allegedly at her birthday, he took her into a hot tub and make her mouth hug him while keeping her head underwater, and she woke up with him doing CPR, the husband, allegedly. It's a really crazy case, but the big question is it enough to excuse you to put 3 rounds into a man's head, 3 into his body, and 1 into the peen?
Y'all look different.
Twisted.
Y'all look different than me too.
Full
We all
chat.
come from different
Top
places
fat
in life.
dingus.
We all had different experiences. We've all been raised a certain way. We have different moral compasses. So each of you cannot put that away when you're deciding what the case is. Okay, you can't get rid of that. That's part of your makeup. That's part of your gut that tells you what to do. So when you go back there, don't give that up. Don't give that up, and you vote how you think you should vote, not based on what somebody else thinks. Just briefly, I'm just going to cover these real quick. Your rights as a juror, you had a right to the whole truth. And I think you got most of it.
Oh my gosh, is he going to ask for
But
nullification?
you have a right to the whole
Well, Darryl
truth, and you
Brooks.
decide what you received, okay? But basically, what it comes down to is what happened here, okay? Just to respond briefly to what the state had just told you. They told you should hold Darrin to a higher standard because he was a special forces soldier, okay? That he knew how to collect intel. They want you to hold him to that standard when he first finished training and he first started to go to war. But in reality is, he wasn't that soldier anymore at that time. We know that for a fact. It's documented from the military. He wasn't the soldier that he was when he first served. As a matter of fact, the military told him, "You're not good enough anymore to be a soldier. Guess what? You're disabled. We don't want you anymore. We can't have you serving the country anymore. We've used you as much as we needed to use you. And now the shell of yourself, you're going to have to go back to your little farm in Tennessee. And you know what? You're on your own now. You're going to cope with whatever trauma you went through by yourself. It's up to you whether you want to go get treated by a doctor. It's up to you whether you want to take your medication." So to hold him to the standard of a special forces soldier when he was first a soldier is unfair and absurd. If we're talking about absurdities, that's one right there. But who was Darrin Lopez now when he got back from the war and disabled due to his PTSD, which is very important, as the doctor told you earlier, because at that point, not only was he injured, not only was he emotionally vulnerable, but his sense of danger was affected because of his service to this country. Now he viewed danger differently. Because again, you have to look at it through his eyes. You have to put yourself in his position and how he viewed things. And where did
All
all
the
this
time.
start? Where did this
Every
this
5
start?
minutes
Remember at the
until he
beginning
answers.
when I told you, you know what? Yes, Jennifer's not sitting in this courtroom. She's not on trial, but her acts are intertwined so much that she is on trial in what she did. The only way the state can get around that is by trying to say, well, Darrin must have known. He had to know that these emails were fake. That's the only way they're going to get around it. Because if you believe what Darrin believed, that those were actual emails that he was receiving in his state of mind at that time, then you know that she led him to do what he did. And this all started, just like my co-counsel said, in high school. He loved her. One of the most special memories that he had was that he went to Europe on this trip, kissed her on the Eiffel Tower, walked through the Black Forest,
I
sat
hear
in the
about
rain
that
on a
Eiffel
bench.
Tower kiss one more again.
These memories
on
were so
declaring
important to him
shenanigans on
that he held on to
France.
them. Even when he first entered the military, he put them on a card.
And facts
So
not
if
in
he was ever
evidence about the
captured and
Black Forest.
tortured,
It was
he
the
could use those
rainforest
memories
of
to
Germany.
get through that traumatic event.
Yeah, if I had to
They
hear him
dated.
wax poetic
They
one more
broke up.
time,
He went off.
or wax moronic.
He worked a little bit at Jack in the Box.
But
Eventually he went
they went to Samat.
to the horrors of war, fighting terrorists. And because of that, he started to go through traumatic events. The major one being he got blown up next to a truck full of nitrate that caused him to have a traumatic brain injury. Now they're trying to say it's mild. Guess what? I don't think anybody wants to have even a mild traumatic injury. Okay? He had a brain injury. And it also, the trauma kept going through his service. He suffered more traumatic events. And then even after he got out, he suffered more trauma, which contributed even to him still having that condition at the time he reconnected with Jennifer. And so is it any surprise that he was overjoyed and giddy, I would say, that he was finally able to find her and contact her, and that she actually wrote back, and that she actually reciprocated his love for her. And guess what? That was the biggest mistake he's made in his life, reconnecting with her. Because what do we know about Jennifer today? She's not a good person. She's manipulative. She's deceitful. She lies to everyone. She uses anybody the way she wants to. You heard from her prior boyfriend how she's been doing this since high school. And we heard Detective Barnes tell you that there was another individual that the investigation revealed that she had done similar things to.
Objection, misstatement of the facts, Your Honor.
The jury will recall the facts as you recall them.
When I asked the question, I said, didn't your investigation reveal there was at least 2 other individuals that she had done this to in the past? And he said, yes. So they reconnect, they start talking, but we also know again that Jennifer will use anybody to her to get what she wants. We know that. Just as Emery Wilson told you, one of the first witnesses, the gentleman who came up to help when the shooting happened. At the very end of his testimony, he says, she used everyone. Even him. She was even trying to get him to try to say that maybe the person who committed this might have been black. And that's what even caused him to maybe not even talk to her anymore. Okay. She used the police, lied to them. Even when they were sitting down trying to comfort her and praying with her, she was deceiving them the whole time. She lied to Jamie. She even used her daughter, Amber, as an excuse not to involve the police. And especially, she lied to Dan. Now, this argument that Darrin knew those were fake emails, if they're going to use the word absurd, that's the most absurd argument you're going to hear today. And the way you know it's absurd is because Detective Barnes told you from the stand that Darrin was duped. Detective Barnes, one of the main investigators on this case, ATF liaison, told you that he was manipulated. He didn't hedge. He told you that right to your face. So why would Detective Barnes have that opinion? Why would he tell you, one of the lead investigators who knows more about this case than anybody, why would he say that to you if that wasn't true? And because it's true, that means he was manipulated. He was duped. And when someone's duped, that means they didn't know what they were reading was not real. She created all the information in this case, created the whole world, created the monster, and then set Darrin, the disabled soldier,
No, it
to
just
do her bidding.
day. And it
Some
shows up in our
mysteries.
chats.
It's mysterious.
Mystery.
I usually don't make notes for closing arguments, but I think this is just a very important case, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But again, she took advantage of Darrin's love for her. She took advantage of Darrin's commitment to her, his memory of her, and used it.
The court reporter is having
And where
none
you
of this.
see the biggest manipulation of all is after the killing. But before that, she, as my co-counsel said, I'm not going to go over everything he actually said because he did a good job doing that, but you could see the arc of the danger that she used in this case, and that she manipulated, and that she lied about. She meets him, she asks about his traumatic brain injury, she even asked to see his records, and she starts using it to her advantage. She even told him, and you'll see in one of the emails, that she has some certification in brain injury. So she knew what she was doing. She knew which buttons to push, and she knew the condition that Darrin was in. Now, we're not saying he's intellectually disabled, but he suffered from a condition that caused him to believe that harm might be coming more than most people, which tells you why he acted the way he did. So she ramps him up with that date. Before, she was just talking about abuse. She thought he was going to call police, and Rob gets introduced, the fake Rob. Rob is a real person. He really was a coworker of hers, but not the Rob in the email. She totally made that up. So she's controlling all the information and how Darrin receives it. He's getting emails from the fake Jamie, emails from the fake Rob. He's receiving information that way. He's getting text messages, but through her phone, because she had to control it to be through her phone because she didn't want him calling another number. So she makes it where he's texting through her phone, and that is important because that's how Darrin and her eventually, or it was actually Darrin who said, you know what, let's use this code so that way I know it's really you calling me. That was his idea, Darrin's, because he wanted to make sure it was her. So she's controlling the emails, she's controlling the text messages, and she's controlling herself talking on the phone. She's also controlling when Darrin should get rid of emails or get rid of text messages. And we know he was not deleting emails in November to try to cover something up. Because as you've seen, most of the information we got in this case was from Darrin, who didn't get rid of a lot of stuff. From his computer, his email account, his phone. She was smart. She got rid of not only her text messages, except for the ones she overlooked to Tina. Not only that, she got rid of her phone. Darrin didn't get rid of his phone. She got rid of her phone, came in with a brand new phone. So as she's controlling this information and controlling him from going to the police, and again, they're making it sound like that's some kind of absurd thing. He was committed to her. She had lied to him, and she had told him it's going to get worse, and he believed it, and he was going to do anything she asked. He even told you from the stand. He was so committed to her and in love with her, he was going to do whatever she asked, including protect her. So we start after the Vegas trip. She starts again push. She's decided, I think I need to get rid of my husband. I'm sure that's what she thought. The evidence would show that. So what does she start to do? She says, it's time to get rid of him. And I'm going to start telling Darrin that it's getting worse. And just by the way, another on the side, and the way you know that Darrin didn't know that was a fake email account from Jamie is because she casually slides it into a forwarded email about a diet plan. If that was some kind of role play or some kind of fantasy play, like why would you do that? The only purpose
Billy,
of
your
that would be to
client
make
isn't
it
too
look
smart.
like that was a real email. But we get back to September. She starts ramping up the allegations of abuse, telling him it's real. And as you heard, Darrin believed that it was anguishing him. He was going through another trauma too. Not only the traumas that he already had gone through that made him vulnerable to manipulation before, he told you how she would call him late at night and also on top of the emails, tell him what happened and how she felt, where he could sleep. He was going crazy.
Use 28 of your 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Judge is like, you're almost done, sir. I'm going to
And
get
so,
the shepherd's hook.
Darrin, you know he thought it was an immediate danger because he jumps in his car and he drives straight to Dallas to save her. Straight to Dallas, stopping to put gas in the car only. He gets to South Dallas, he's lost. He knows once he turns on his iPad that, he's leaving a record, but it didn't matter to him because he wasn't going to lose another person. He gathered himself there and he thought about all the past trauma he's had, all the people he lost, and he wasn't going to let Jennifer be lost without him being able to do something. So he goes. And it's the first instant that he can safely save her, he does. He acted immediately to the danger that he perceived and that Jennifer created. If you put yourself in Darrin's position, it's reasonable to believe that he really felt he had to act at that point. I think you don't even have to be in Darrin's position. A lot of people in his position, if they were led to believe by the deceit of Jennifer Fick, would believe that. And he acted. And he killed him. And then when he found out that he was totally innocent, it devastated. But it took him a long time. It took him a long time. Even after being confronted with Jennifer's deceit, he still didn't want to believe it. And he finally did. And when he finally did, he cooperated with law enforcement. And if you look at Jennifer's direction and manipulation in this case, it really comes to light after the killing, because she's the one directing the cover. She's the one telling him, "Hey, you need to get rid of these text messages." She's telling him this. She's the one saying, "Hey, that sticker, you might want to get rid of that. Go take it off." He hadn't even done that. He hadn't even thought about that.
I liked he admitted that, yeah, I did a shitty job of removing that.
And then in her very last attempt,
It's this weird dichotomy where they want us to believe he's completely a dummy, but he's also smart.
A letter on October 19th of 2021.
And it's not.
Where she says,
it's kind of like, son, when you meet him,
575.
you know.
Just a quick note to say, I never lied to you, and I've never sent you emails from any account
That's
but mine.
we are doing a CERN search.
If Darrin
You get
knew
on the camera
that those were fake emails, why is she sending a letter to him in jail
still has to science
telling
with
him that they were not fake emails? Why send a letter like this if he knew that? Because he didn't. And she was trying to cover for herself. Because she already had used Darrin for her purpose. And now she's
they'll still keep it out there waiting for the U.S. Marine who will
this
come
is very
and
violent because this undercuts
used a lot
the
in
whole
Denmark.
argument that he knew that those were fake. I think you all are reasonable people. I think you all can go in the back and make a reasonable decision based on the evidence that you heard. And we're asking you to do the right thing under the law. That's what we're asking you to do. I think we can sum up this whole case by the last words of some of the witnesses that you heard.
He did what American lawyers do too much. He talked us to
I
death.
will tell you that she had done this before and she did it again.
You should
And
just
that's
have brought in
exactly what happened here.
the note
You
about
heard Mr. Emily
her
Wilson
writing
tell
to
you
him. No, it's not a bruise. I didn't fool you.
that she used everybody, and you know she did. Darrin may have pulled the trigger, but she pulled down. And as Dr. Fabian told you at the end of his testimony, but for Jennifer, this would have never happened. I think you have all the evidence in front of you to tell you that deep in your heart and deep in your gut for you to make the proper decision in this case. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Court recognize the Honorable Brandy Mitchell. Ma'am, you have 16 minutes. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Please the court, counsel, co-counsel. Anguish, Darrin's anguish.
Oh, she's
Heck, those two talked all the time.
She is on fire.
They communicated all through the night.
Uh-oh.
They didn't stop talking since March 17th. They couldn't keep away from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to kill a man, if you're going to end his life, if you're going to choose the time and the place where his life ends, like Darrin did, then you better have a damn good reason. That's basic human moral conduct. And it better not be based
It happens
on
every day.
absurd
still. That's
emails.
it does.
Subject line, get Jen home now, all caps.
Oh, no.
It better not be based on two grown men arguing via email. Interestingly,
She
these
makes a
emails on September 3rd, after September 3rd, when Rob Schmidt's email was deleted, Darrin never emails that again. Never. There's not one email,
he's angry.
nothing.
Jennifer, I thought, okay, there was an email where he was wondering why the email had been deleted.
Members of the jury, you'll recall the testimony.
You better have a damn good reason.
She might
and it
be
better
Ben.
not be
She really
based
might be.
on some text conveniently deleted where a man
Convenient.
tells another man the who, what, why, when, and where of the murder of his wife. That a man who works for American Airlines in IT is going to email and text this. You better have a good reason. Legally, it must, and this makes sense, it must be immediately necessary. And nothing about what those two did, nothing about what was going on, as Ms. Paver said, was immediately necessary. I'm sure, I mean, it's a good thing, I guess, that James Faith and Jennifer Faith, or James Faith, wants to keep up the routine of walking his dog before the murder of his wife later on, before an underwater blowjob drowning. That was convenient for Darrin.
Jesus, I was drinking.
These two both cooked it up. Both.
That's it. That's going to be my stinger. I have
And
to
he ran up to
clip
him
it, but that's going
And
to
he
be.
executed him.
Underwater blowjob drowning.
An
Yeah,
unarmed.
Farrell is sleeping.
Where's
She
Shelley?
needs to be.
Nothing about that situation was immediately necessary.
One for
Everything.
No, I kind of wanted to
that
see
you
it
guys have
filmed. I mean,
heard,
just for science.
These two cooked it
I
up,
didn't know you could do
and
that.
we know it.
I mean,
And there
not
is
drowning.
no
What is this?
legal defense here. There is not one legal defense that applies in this case. There are lies, and there are stories, and there's strange sex and strange love, but there's no defense. There is but one victim here. One
Yeah.
victim,
But Søren isn't a good swimmer.
James Faye. PTSD.
We were putting Sal on that one, actually.
Concussion.
Because Baker's got the knife toss with
People
CERN.
have those all the time.
And I'm going to find a suitcase Mr. Mo
They don't
can
go out and commit murder.
comfortably get into for a little bit while
They
I'm
don't
drunk.
show up
So,
based on
so Jamie will be the
their
Sebastian.
communications. And
Yep.
they tell you, oops,
Jamie-
I deleted all.
Crock pots of weirdness.
But that was my justification for killing a man.
You suffer.
Come on.
Oh my God. You all are the best chat ever. If you happen to
Ladies and
find
gentlemen,
out if there was a death
man
from
lost his
that,
life within
we need to
seconds.
cover that like
Dead on the street.
immediately.
Yeah.
This
We need to
good,
get all the
good
links.
man. Jennifer Faith is responsible, and Darrin Lopez is responsible. And we are asking you to find him guilty, because he is guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Members of the jury, next thing that's going to happen is that you all are going to go to the jury room to begin your deliberations. As the instructions tell you, you need to elect a foreperson, and then you will begin your deliberations. All of the evidence will be
We've been
sent
behind. Are they
back
back
with
already?
you. A couple things. I'm going to
Oh.
sort of preempt some things based on
Only
experiences that I've
25
had in the
minutes behind.
past. Some juries will go back and they'll send a question back to me saying, can we have a transcript of the trial? It does not work like that. The law forbids a general rereading of testimony. You all can articulate for me in writing if you have a specific disagreement about testimony, and I'll give you an example. Judge, we would like to have Brandon's testimony read back. Can't have that. Judge, 6 of us think that Brandon said the light was red. 6 of us think that Brandon said the light was green. Can you please go back and find that particular testimony, and we can begin looking. And as soon as we can get it, we'll give it to you. However, it's not instant. There's a process that must be followed. I only tell you that because I want you to understand that we'll be working as hard as we can, but it's not instantaneous. Other than that, I'm going to have some additional instructions for the alternate jurors. You are alternate jurors. We'll have accommodations for you in the back that is separate from the jurors in this case. You need to be there. If you need to take a restroom break or anything like that, you need to make sure that Sheriff Martin knows how to get a hold of you in case something happens and we need you immediately. Please wear your juror badges, and that goes for everybody in case you all do take breaks.
My
And
shock.
if anybody approaches you, and this goes for anybody, that makes you feel uncomfortable around here while you're on a break, taking a break, please let the bailiff know. We are now working on your schedule. If you want to go back and deliberate now, you can. If you want to go back and take a break, we can do that too. We'll be working on your schedule from
I
here
like
on
this
out.
judge.
The only thing I ask is that you keep
This
us
judge is the
apprised
bomb. Can
of
we
what your
just
schedule
find
will
all
be
the
by
trials that are
sharing
coming
that
to his
with
court?
Sheriff Martin. All rise for the jury.
And the way
Court's in
he
recess pending the jury's.
From now on.
the way he seems like he cares, even reading the jury instructions. Normally they are just guilty, they're not guilty. It's just speed reading. This was good. I made a poll before we went into it. Can I end it? Auslut. Yes. Why did I say we're ending this? 68% guilty, 15% not guilty, 15% self-defense, 25 votes. So
Who said not
I'm
guilty?
I'm leaning towards he's found guilty in first-degree murder, and then I think the heavy lifting will be happening in the sentencing part of the trial. And everyone, we see a lot of new faces here. Mo and I have been dual streaming this trial. We're trying to help each other out because I live in the normal part of the world where we use real clocks. You live in America where you are 6 to 8 hours behind. So she does the heavy lifting in the afternoon. I try to do it in the morning, not as good as she does. So if you would like to help Mo out a bit, go over there and give her a like, a subscription, maybe. Do all the YouTubey things. I hate this grifting part, but it's necessary because we love you all and we love to have you. And you can see us again if you haven't subscribed, because if you do that, you'll get hopefully a notification when we go leave another time. And then we can bring you cases that the bigger channels won't touch because they don't have all the notoriety. So everyone else was doing your business, so we were doing Darrin in Dallas. So it wasn't Debbie who did Dallas. It was Mo and Mess. Mo and Baker.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't.
Well, Twisted, I can recognize you on the eyes.
Yes. I am really now wondering how long they're going to take, because
Yeah, I should probably do this. We have a
I
cool.
feel like
We haven't seen this shot in any case before.
oh, is that the emergency escape button or
Jury
Oh.
call. It says jury call.
ooh?
So we can
Do you see like
allegedly.
somebody push it? Is that like the?
No,
I
I think it's blinking if the jury calls for a question
Oh.
or to say. So
That'd be funny if you just saw a hand.
so you could do the experiment with Sal about the mouthy in the pool.
Yeah, because I was confused if like a snorkel was involved or it was like Marco Polo. You find it when you close your eyes. I don't know. Seems like there are a lot of factors.
Yeah, I really don't think the argument that an IT person is too smart to put things in writing. We have seen some really smart people do some really stupid stuff.
Yeah.
The Alex Murdoch trial, he's a pretty good lawyer until he got on his pill habit. He did a lot of stupid stuff and put it everywhere in writing.
I mean,
All of the writings.
he was doing all of the things that a lawyer shouldn't, should know better. Come on.
I'm not
Yeah.
pulling Twisted up. I've learned for your mistakes, Mo. Not everything Twisted says can go on screen. So, but now there's not really anything to do but sit here and wait, or maybe turn this off, and then hopefully we get the notification on Twitter so we can set up a stream when there's a verdict. I'm not sure we'll be waiting for days for this verdict,
No.
but what do I know?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, yeah, like they admitted to he did it. It's just a matter of what you believe. So
Yeah, was it legal self-defense? Yeah, just the way we like it. And this judge was really good. Maybe Dave would go live. He's cute. But people, before we end this stream, you all know why you're here. You all know why you came to our little stupid part of the internet. It's because Mo and I are so lucky we have the best co-anchor on all of YouTube. We have Jamie, and Jamie has the most beautiful lashes you can ever have. She calls them stripper lashes. Somebody, maybe Twisted, calls them umbrellas. I don't see why he does that, but
oh yeah.
so if you could spare $1 to help Mo's lashes grow, it would be really appreciated. Mo and I are just doing this for the clicks and the likes and the everything, but we really need to get those lashes up to a 10. It's what's keeping
Yes.
our channels growing.
Yes, very much. As far as the Wild Bill, I have to run. My oldest is a camp counselor at the Y, and they're doing an overnight for the kind of end of the summer. And she forgot something, so I'm running that to her, and then I will come back on and start a lot. I know it's live now. Well, Twisted, as I have frequently said, 6 children does not a strong bladder make, so I will take that into, especially with the head on the 5th one. Jesus. Never mind.
Again,
Actually,
10
Baker, I
pound
think
plus.
you're
They curl up, so they're not in the way of anything like people think they are.
Indigo, you can say that.
Yeah. But everyone, thank you so much for showing up and following our little part of the, as we call it, pre-Darrell Brooks law tubing, where we know none of the law, but we act like it, just like Darrell Brooks teaches us in class. It's a very
True.
cheap course. It's only $250,000 a year, so everyone should join that university. Because you learn all the reasonable facts, landship, boat pirates and how you can get tased by them. Is this maritime law grounds? Objectifying, tacit agreements. That's the course material we'll be going through. So
Matter, jurisdiction.
yeah, subject.
That's a pretty big
That's in the
course.
later part, and how to make the state
Yeah.
appear in court is still a tricky one. But we will be trying to educate ourselves so we can help entertain you. And again, please go over to Mo's channel if you're on my, and maybe some Reds
Yes.
put Mo's channel in my chat, because
Yes. And thank you all the mods. You guys do an awesome job finding the link things, and chat finding all the internet. I mean, Bunny found out that there is an actual mouth hug drowning. So
But Bunny, please DM one of us, because we'll probably have Stab Your Day tomorrow. Stab Your Day is our start to the weekend, where we
yes, we
claim
need
we have something to talk about, but mostly it's just us saying to Salbert he needs to take a cold shower, and then we just yak on about most kids and my boring life, and Jamie is just beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, you haven't showed up for Stabber Days. You gotta come.
yeah, it's
I don't think I've
very,
seen you.
very fun.
Is Baker gonna do Stab Your Day?
What?
Is Baker gonna do
Are you-
Stab Your Day?
Can I
Yeah.
call you?
Can I go? Can I email you?
Can we be best
some-
friends?
I need some documents.
You guys, I'm just saying, every time we do this, I am seeing that scene in Billy Madison where he has to call, oh God, Buscemi and say, look, I was kind of a dick to you. And then he marks him off the to be unalived list. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, that flashes.
Thank you for showing up, the White Rabbit, and hopefully you can come back and we can entertain you another time. And Jamie, I can hope you can come to Canada.
Yep, IHOP. Let's meet at IHOP.
We don't have IHOP in Denmark. Everyone, this has been an entertaining afternoon for me. Hopefully it's been fun for you too, but we'll see you when the verdict is in, if I'm not sleeping.